All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to a little impromptu pregame here today. We've got 2 round of 32 games coming up for Iowa State, and that will happen in the next how many hours do we got? Brent Bloom, what's up, my man? How we doing?
3 hours. Start the countdown. 180 minutes.
Perfect.
5:10. 5:10.
Thank you very much. We have a lot coming up here over the next 45 minutes or something like that, where Scott Christopherson and I actually already knocked out a 10-minute segment for this because Bloom, the great Scott Christopherson, going to his first ever NCAA tournament game as a fan today. He's coming over from Oshkosh, I believe is where he lives. He will be hopping in about 10 minutes. We'll hear from him. But yeah, Christopherson, he's going to the game, so he couldn't join us here live. But first things first, how are you feeling about today?
The vibes are increasingly getting better throughout the day. So you had the Iowa State set up today. You saw Tinsley. You saw Halliburton in a Tinsley jersey earlier today from the Pacers Twitter account. You just saw that Iowa State's the only Power 5 team in the state of Iowa remaining in an NCAA tournament on both the men's and the women's side. So the vibes are good, C-Dub.
Yeah, sorry, I was having some audio issues there, but I'm caught back up now, and I was hearing everything twice, and it was very distracting. No, it's a really exciting day here in Milwaukee. I can tell you this: walking around, I went for a walk earlier. There are Iowa State fans here, but it is going to be a lonely feeling over at the Pfizer Forum here in a couple of hours. I mean, there's probably going to be a few Texas fans. Purdue's probably going to have a decent amount, but that arena is going to be 90% Wisconsin tonight.
So what's the first game there? Is Iowa State Wisconsin the first game? So okay, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many folks stick around for that second game. But that's part of it. I think this actually sets up really well because you've got Iowa State backs against the wall, as you wrote extremely well yesterday. There's nothing to lose at this point. But I love the fact that Tyrese Hunter did not get offered a scholarship from Wisconsin. He's back home. He played so good the other night, and it's Iowa State against a really quality team. But I think if you're going to give me a 3 seed that Iowa State could beat, this is the one. I mean, I think Wisconsin was overseeded to begin with. They're still a very good team, tied for the Big Ten. But we've seen now that the Big Ten maybe wasn't as good as we thought, and so this just sets up nicely where this is not a Wisconsin team with overwhelming athleticism. I think Iowa State will be able to get some looks offensively. And C-Dub, I think it's pretty simple. It comes down to which of the two teams can make the most shots, which is an obvious thing to say in basketball. But I don't think either one of them is going to kill the other one on the glass or with turnovers or anything like that. And so it's a matter of, can Grill and Kalsher make some shots? I don't think Hunter's making 7 again tonight. So let's see who makes the shots. And, Brockington has the potential. I'd be curious what that matchup's like if they put Davis on him, if they put Davis in somebody else. I think Brockington has a chance to have a really big night tonight, and Iowa State needs him to.
Yeah, I think that'll be a key. He kind of, if you can get Brockington off to a good start, the rest of the team, things kind of open up for him. And we saw that on Friday against LSU, and then if everything got gummed up there, right, with the last 7 minutes or so. I'm anxious to see how Iowa State does post defense wise. I think a lot of attention will be paid on Davis, right? Obviously, and then Brad Davison and whatnot. We have seen Iowa State struggle with interior defense so far this year. Because I think Iowa State with Brockington and Kalsher specifically is going to give Johnny Davis a perimeter defense that he probably hasn't seen much of this year. So then, I'm looking at that next layer, right? Greg Gard's a good coach, and he's watched Iowa State's posts. What do you think about that aspect of this game?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Davis is going to have to earn it. Now, he is the guy for good reason, and he's an NBA player that he probably thinks I can still get my 20 on these guys. But I think between the two of them, Iowa State has as good a wing defenders as there are from a duo in the country. And so that's going to be big. But it's a Wisconsin team that doesn't turn the ball over. And I think, between Hepburn and then Davison as well, they take care of it. And so it's going to be really hard to speed them up. Wisconsin runs their stuff. And so it's a matter then, if they're trying to shut down Davis, Wisconsin has always been able to throw the ball in the post and get some offense there. So can you stay out of foul trouble? They've got good enough size. It's going to be tough to play small. So it means Condit and Jones are going to have to be out there at some point. They're not going to overwhelm you with the, just excellent post moves or, high above the rim dunks or anything like that. But they're good enough to make Iowa State pay. And then can Iowa State guard them one-on-one on the post without fouling? I think that's a big question mark, because if you have to send a double team, Wisconsin's got the shooters to make Iowa State pay. If I'm looking at this matchup, Iowa State's metrics defensively are better than Wisconsin's. Wisconsin's offensive metrics are a lot better, but they play a slower pace. So I think this will be a grinded out half-court game. Wisconsin's comfortable in that style. Can Iowa State make the shots late in the shot clock? And I think it comes down to this game's probably 65-60, something like that. Who makes the plays late in the shot clock? Because this is going to be Iowa State's used to it. It's going to be a typical grinded out, that we've seen throughout the year.
All right, let's look at the women's game real quick, and then we'll get to Scott Christopherson, and then we'll have a special guest, Jamie Steyer Johnson, who does color commentary on the Cyclone Radio Network, is going to hop on to help us. I think she probably is more familiar with Georgia at this point. I want some insight on who the ladies are going to be matching up with tonight. But I actually really like how this sets up for the women. They struggled pretty badly in the first 20 minutes of the basketball game on Friday night, to the point where I was finding it very distracting and not able to work because I was so freaking losing my mind in that media area watching the women come back. But I like it because it feels to me like whatever that was got out of their system. Georgia is a very different type of team than what Iowa State is. And I don't know why I feel like this is a 15 to 23 pointer type game tonight. Got all the jitters out on Friday. I think Iowa State lets it loose tonight. That's just my gut.
Well, if that's the case, Iowa State wins going away.
Yes,
but
that's just my gut. My gut.
I'm for it. I mean, I think it's interesting if you look at this Georgia team. It's a very Baylor, Texas light type of team. So they've got one really good post.
Yep.
I think her name is Stady. All SEC for a couple of years. She really, as she goes, they go. I mean, she's 17-10. I mean, really, really good post player. So the hands are going to be full for Jordan Kane. If they're able to contain her, C-Dub, I think they've made 100 threes all year. Iowa State's made 340. So it's completely different styles on the women's side, where Georgia's going to want to throw in the post, drive the ball, get to the free throw line, and Iowa State is what Iowa State does. So it's a contrast in styles. Iowa State's used to playing this. I don't think this team's as good as Texas or Baylor, clearly, but it's that type of team that if Stady's living on the offensive glass and in the post, it could be a long night for Iowa State, and they have to counter that. I think 15 would be great. I think Iowa State, the magic number, if you get to 9 threes, I think Iowa State wins that in Hilton, and you hope that the home crowd helps a little bit. So I think that's going to be a fascinating matchup, because see if a couple of games. Iowa State's had a chance to go to the Sweet 16, lost to Georgia twice. Also had a chance to go to the Final Four in 1990. I'm going to get this wrong. 9, and lost to Georgia in the Elite 8. So Georgia's 3-0 all time against Iowa State, all in the NCAA tournament. I think Iowa State's due there.
Yeah, no doubt about that. We'll get to that game here in about 10 minutes. All right, so earlier today, because Scott Christopherson is on the road heading here to Milwaukee, but I wanted to get his insight. He watches a lot of Wisconsin basketball. Yeah, go ahead.
Little fun fact. Scott is undefeated winning the arena for Iowa State games this year.
Wow.
Because all the games we did on ESPN Plus were all the non-conference, and clearly Iowa State went undefeated. Scott also did the 2 games with you in Brooklyn, won both of those games. Yep. I don't believe Scott went to a Big 12 game at Hilton Coliseum. Therefore,
he did. He went as a fan to the Oklahoma game.
And that was a win too. So there you go.
It was the highest rated offensive game in the last 20 years for Iowa State basketball. So there we go.
So really, I'm glad Scott's going to be there tonight. Nothing could go wrong.
He's really excited. Let's hear from him here. The great Scott Christopherson. We did this interview about an hour ago. All right, everybody, got Scott Christopherson here. We recorded this earlier because the big man is going to the game. And you are first NCAA tournament game as a fan? Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, you couldn't ask for a better setting. Sunday night, chance to go to the Sweet 16, playing Wisconsin in Wisconsin. So I never grew up a Badger fan, so I have zero issue rooting against the Badgers. And now that it's the Cyclones, I love going on the road as a player. So I look forward to kind of taking on that as a fan for the first time too, kind of being in someone else's home building.
Well, it is going to be crazy. I watched the second half of Colgate, Wisconsin the other night, and that place was absolutely insane. Like drunk, full, rowdy.
It reminded me of fans. Come on now.
It reminded me of like a Big 12 tournament championship game that Kansas wasn't playing Iowa State in, where it's just all Iowa State fans and it's like a home game. That's what it reminded me of. There was a lot of red in there.
No, I mean they've got a very loyal base, and I mean I've been to games at the Kohl Center back when I was in high school, and I mean they know how to pack a stadium, and they have a great fan base. So I look forward to kind of reminds me of my senior year playing Kentucky in Louisville. Yeah. That was 25,000 screaming Kentucky fans. So I think this is going to be just an absolute amazing atmosphere.
What do you think about the matchup for Iowa State? I know that you had voiced that this was a team you would like to see Iowa State play. You said that a couple of weeks ago on your podcast with Jared. What about this do you like going into tonight?
They're a finesse team. And I think those are the teams that they're skilled. Don't get me wrong. They're balanced. Yeah. They've got a go-to premier scorer. So in no way am I insinuating that this is not a good team, but the teams that give Iowa State the most fits are the physical, above the rim, rebounding teams, and then the teams with just extreme length, like Texas Tech's obviously the one we all think of, where they can switch everything. They put a ton of ball pressure on you. They're out in passing lanes. That's not this team. I think Iowa State has a legitimate chance to rebound with this team tonight. I think that'll be a big key in this game. And then we should be able to run our stuff in the half court. And, Wisconsin's a good defensive team, but they're good because they're solid. I think if Iowa State really tries to impose its will, attacking the basket and attacking the paint, they should be able to have some success creating, either shots in the paint or those inside out looks that, we've talked a lot about this team being better with when they shoot those types of threes this year. So when you think of all the teams that they would potentially play to go to the Sweet 16, the 2s, the 3s, the 4s, this is the style of team that I was hoping they would be matched up against.
A couple ones that, are obvious. It's matching up with Johnny Davis. I have a pretty good idea based off of what Coach said yesterday that it's going to be a committee thing. You'll see Brockington on him. You'll see Kalsher on him. And when the other guy will be on Brad Davison. A lot will depend. They'll switch it up in transition, change things up. I don't know. I actually like that for Iowa State. I don't think Davis has probably seen a lot of guys who pressure defend you, the way that those guys will. But I also have my concerns about Iowa State offensively here. I think Wisconsin's a good defensive team. I don't think they're an elite, but they play a different style. They're not all up in your ass, right? Like a lot of these Big 12 teams that we've seen.
Yeah, on Johnny Davis, I think back to playing against Keegan Murray in the job that they did on him. What really stood out to me in that Iowa game, and I think this will be really important tonight, they made him score against more than one player. So every time he caught the ball, they made him catch the ball further away from the basket than he wanted to. And then every time he caught the ball, either in the post or in a face-up, Iowa State was showing 2 or 3 guys to him on the catch. So he felt like he constantly had to shoot over because the drive just wasn't there. And I think that's what you got to try to do to Johnny Davis the best you can. He's going to score some. You want his perimeter jump shot volume to be high. And then you hope he doesn't have one of those nights he's capable of having where he puts, 30 or 35 on the board, just, filling it up from the perimeter. You hope he has a night where he's going to make some shots, but he shoots a low percentage and he's a high volume shooter from that spot. To me, that's the big key to watch in this game on him. Offensively, Wisconsin is not going to put a ton of pressure on you. they're going to be good with their help. And the solid is what comes to mind when I think of how they defend, right? Like they're going to have their heels on the 3-point line. They usually don't come out further than that. And they're going to show help. And you're going to have to get the ball moving from side to side, which this team has done. I think having the discipline to continue to look for spots to press the paint as opposed to just kind of, well, they really pack it in. Let's just start firing away from the 3-point line. That's going to be a big mental battle for this team as the game wears on, because Wisconsin can kind of wear you down that way where it's like, well, why even look anymore? Because they're just always there. But I think you've got to keep looking. And then, Gabe, Jazz, Caleb, when they get opportunities to knock down some shots, we need them to hit a few so that Wisconsin feels like they've got to get out on those guys. But I don't think this team wins this game tonight at the 3-point line. I think they win this game if they can get the ball into the paint and then they pitch it out to the 3-point line, take all of those. But if they live out at the 3-point line, I think it'll be a struggle to get to, 60, 65 or, whatever number they need to win tonight.
But that was kind of after I rewatched the LSU game. I think my analysis of it changed a little bit. I'm like, no, what are we doing? Shooting 37 threes, but there wasn't any other option. Like, I mean, it just comes down to it is a limited roster, and we've known that. And LSU was really just, gumming up the middle there. And I think that the 3-point looks are probably better offense than, trying to drive it into the lane and turn it over. But you think there'll be some ways for Iowa State to get into the lane against Wisconsin?
I just think you have to keep looking. You know what I mean? Maybe not.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe Wisconsin just says, we're not leaving the paint. And then you have to shoot them and you have to shoot them. They're like, you have to be able to make some shots from the perimeter. And that's where, this will be the second game in this building with this ball, these rims, this backdrop. So hopefully our shooters are a little bit more comfortable and we're able to make enough to keep them honest. I think where I can get a little bit frustrated sometimes is it seems like they just kind of check out of like, well, let's not even look to attack on some of these possessions because we know it's not going to happen. And I think you've just got to keep pressing because all it takes is they let their guard down for 2 minutes and you get the ball in there a couple of times. And that could be your 6-0 or 8-0 run. And that's sometimes all this team needs to kind of get it rolling and get going. So I just think it's more of a mental fortitude of we're going to keep looking. But they also, to your point, if Wisconsin just comes out and dares them to shoot threes, like you have to confidently shoot the basketball.
Yeah. And that was the guy I was sitting next to at the game. Doesn't it feel too like going forward, even like next year, like Grill specifically, like those open corner threes, that's got to be his shot. Like, right. Like he's got to get more consistent. As far as that goes, we have all off season to talk about that, but those are the type of plays. I mean, Iowa State can't win. They cannot win tonight with Grill and Kalsher going 4 for 21. It just, I do not see a path to victory. It's shocking enough that they won any NCAA tournament game. But if you go back and you look at and they got bailed out by a freshman, right? Because Tyrese went off and made up for it.
Who's not a shooter. Like, I mean, not that he can't shoot, but that's not his MO.
Correct. So that's where I'm saying, like, I don't think you can count on 7 threes from Tyrese Hunter again tonight. The guys at the 2 spot just have to be better. And You're right. Kuntz, if he gets a look, he knocked one down late in the game that was big for Iowa State the other night. What do you think, Scott, about the Chucky Hepburn matchup with Tyrese Hunter? Tyrese had a great first game. I think Hepburn, though, will be a tough matchup for him. He's a little bit bigger, a little more stronger than Tyrese. This will be fun to watch the 2 freshmen.
I think it's going to be a big determining factor in this game tonight. I mean, Tyrese's speed, fearlessness, his peskiness against, Chucky Hepburn doesn't carry himself like a freshman out on the court. Neither does Tyrese, all right? So this is a guy that's got some strength, skill. He can get his shoulder on you and kind of just run you to the basket. I think whichever one of those 2 guys, if one of those 2 guys can decisively win that matchup, I don't know if this, to me, this is a close game. I don't know that at 50-50, but we'll say 55-45. If one of those teams gets a decisive victory in the point guard matchup tonight, that could be enough to tilt this game one way or the other.
All right, Scott, you got to get on the road, my man. We'll look you up there at the Pfizer Forum and yell loud. It's what color are you wearing? Because it's going to be all red. Are you wearing what are you?
I've got my Cyclone. Jared got on me a little bit yesterday about not having the Cyclone Fanatic paraphernalia on, so I got my act together today. I've got the pullover and the
Beautiful
the Iowa State, and I look forward to to representing Iowa State in there.
Well, I'm looking forward to. We need to get with your agent and sign you to a long-term deal with Cyclone Fanatic, and then we'll get
Chris. You are my agent, so if you want to make that happen, that.
Well, we need to get you more gear. That's on me. So we'll do that. We'll do that in the off season. All right, brother. Love you, man. Enjoy the game. Yell loud, and don't get in any fights with any of your fellow Wisconsinites. Okay?
Oh, I won't. Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to it, man. Talk to you soon.
All right. So Bloom, real quick. Before we bring Jamie on to break down the women's game, I thought it would be good. All I could think about yesterday when I was writing my column, have you ever you watched Rocky IV, right? It's one.
I think everybody has. Yeah.
It's just this scene when it's Christmas Day and Rocky is invading Moscow to take on Drago. Like this is all I can think about. That this is going to be Iowa State tonight. Let's watch it for a minute. So there's Brad Davison.
Ladies and gentlemen, в синем углу ринга наш гость из Соединенных Штатов Америки, абсолютный чемпион мира Рокки Бальбоа.
The communists are just throwing stuff at him. Like I just feel like it's this. It's like a true Cyclones versus the world feel. I wish that you could have been in there for that Colgate game. You had Johnny Davis like taunting the 10 Colgate fans that were in attendance after he made shots. These drunk Wisconsin people are throwing beer cans onto the floor. I'm telling you guys, I'm not over exaggerating. It's going to be an absolute war tonight in that arena.
How many Iowa State fans were there?
Probably a good chunk. Like there's across from the bench, I happen to be right in front of the Iowa State section, so they sounded louder to me. But that arena the other night for Iowa State LSU, Iowa State maybe had 5 to 7% of the arena. Okay. Now I know a lot more people probably bought tickets and are coming over, but it is going to be an absolute. We're walking into a hornet's nest tonight.
The good thing is the way Iowa State plays, I don't think it really bothers them a whole lot.
I don't know.
It's not like this is a team that relies on rhythm and everything else offensively that could be distracted by the crowd. And honestly, I like Tyrese Hunter. I was thinking about this today, and let me reference it again. The Tyrese Halliburton tweet of him wearing a Jamal Tinsley jersey today, and Van Winkle's sick. On it. That is phenomenal, by the way, because that's literally a Tinsley Iowa State jersey. Tyrese Hunter is one of 3 players who I like in this spot. Great work, Van Winkle. Tinsley, DeAndre Kane, Tyrese Hunter. Like those are the 3 guys that it's basically, as Tinsley once said, it's just another gym. Tyrese Hunter at one point told us in the non-conference, I don't get nervous playing basketball because it's just basketball. I mean, if you think about that's his attitude, and it was reflective of that Friday. He's going to enjoy this. Like I'm so comfortable with that guy in this spot tonight.
If you think too about what he's been through in his life,
exactly.
Like this is pretty small, and like he was talking so the whole media. Someday maybe I'll make it a chapter of the book that I'm writing about like how predictable the media is. Like we're all just a bunch of robots. That's all we are. That's what sports writers are after you've been doing this for 5 years. And like everybody yesterday was doing the whole, Wisconsin didn't offer Tyrese Hunter story.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was seriously up there. He's like, honestly, I didn't even ever think that I'd make it to D1. Like I'm just from Racine. Like he was so chill. He's just like, I'm just happy to be here. Like it wasn't like I think him and TJ both have a chip on their shoulder.
Always.
And Greg Gard, I thought was pretty condescending towards TJ yesterday. He continually brought up Steve Prohm in the press conference. Like whatever. I'm being biased here. I think there's a chip, but I don't think these guys are like going to be like just, oh, we got to kill Wisconsin. I don't feel that going into this.
Right. This game's big enough no matter who the opponent is. It's kind of a nice storyline. They'll talk about it. But yeah, when the ball goes up, it's make some baskets. So I'm looking forward to it. I think honestly though, Hunter and Brockington are big keys. So he's got to play well regardless.
So Georgia's walking into our version of Moscow.
That's right. We are
tonight,
Moscow,
which is Hilton Coliseum. And let's head that direction and welcome in our friend Jamie Steyer Johnson. She'll be calling the game tonight on the Cyclone Radio Network. Hey Jamie, how are you?
Hey, great. I'm awake. I'm gonna be hopefully more awake today than Friday, though. Our team did me a huge favor and made it so that I couldn't get tired during that first round game. So clearly a personal favor to me. But.
Yeah, lots of Red Bulls this time of year for sure. Yeah, that was a late one, especially by the time it got over.
Yeah, I was on air till 11:30 or so, and then I live in Adel, so thankfully I have a driver and my husband.
There you go.
You're VIP now, Jamie. I mean, we all, even Williams doesn't even have a driver. But
no, I'm the only one who can drive the Cyclone Fanatic truck. So anyway,
there you go.
All right, so Jamie, I know you've been really looking into Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Bloom kind of categorized them as like a Texas Baylor light. Is that accurate to you? How do you view this matchup?
Yeah. I mean, the SEC plays a different style of basketball to the Big 12, and it would be more akin to your Baylors, to your Texas. You're going to have a lot more athletes. You're going to have a lot more, pushing the pace, a lot more physicality, a lot of really good just athletes playing basketball, as opposed to, they'll have their share of finesse, they'll have their share of running their offense, but they rely on that a lot less. And obviously you've got kind of that size aspect on the high end that you have to rely on. I know you guys mentioned Stady earlier, but frankly, even more consequential than her if possible, because you're going to get a lot of performance from a starting five. They're getting a huge boost in a McDonald's All-American freshman. Jillian Hollingshead just played her first game in over a month against Dayton. Incredible coming off the bench, played 15 minutes with 7 of 13 from the floor. Okay. And she's 6'5". So Iowa State's posts are going to have to be on tonight. Obviously Mo, obviously B, and then in that situation, we've seen it several times this year. I haven't talked to my mom, so this is all my own speculation, but we very well may see Izzy tonight as well, just because of the size situation. You could use a couple more fouls maybe, depending on what happens there. But you got to use your size where you can find it.
And Jamie, Iowa State has traditionally in the last, 5 years has really been more of a man-to-man defense and hasn't played zone as much as, this team did 15, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. But Georgia just doesn't shoot many threes. Right. I just wonder if this is an opportunity to do that. And obviously, Coach Fenley's teams are always scouting report driven. I think the matchup will be interesting. Of you can probably surround the paint without playing a zone and just almost force them to make shots and go that route.
Yeah. There's a couple different ways you can go about it. And frankly, at this point in the season, generally they're preparing several different options.
Sure.
Because during the year you play so many that it's not like, oh, we're going to put in this brand new defense and you have to learn it in 2 days. They've played, 10 defenses throughout the course of the year. So you say, all right, these are going to be our priorities. We're maybe going to run a 2-3 or 3-2 zone. We're maybe going to run some man-to-man. We're going to run some man-to-man where these people are all switching and, the 5-man stays, whatever the case may be. But it is really interesting because like you mentioned, they're not a big 3-point shooting team. I tweeted earlier today, it's Iowa State's made more than Georgia has attempted. Like it's just stylistically not even close. Ashley Jones has made 88. Georgia's made 99. So it's just, they're not looking for it. And so if they get wide open, maybe a couple of them will shoot it once in a while, but the most threatening person on their team has made 34 in this season. And so if who's going to shoot it when they're wide open, you can get out to them. But otherwise, you're so much more concerned with slashing. You're so much more concerned with making it difficult to get the ball down low, because where Iowa State obviously matches up better would be the guards, because you can put Iowa State's guards up against anyone in the country. I love our post. They do really great things on defense, but they're a little bit undersized, especially compared to SEC bigs. So if you can make it tough to get the ball down low, that's even easier for the post to stay in really good position.
And so as part of that, Jamie, foul trouble has to be a big factor tonight for Iowa State's post too, because it's if you have to put Dew in there as your post against 6'5" and 6'4", it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, you can get away with that against some teams, having Nye down there at the 5. And sometimes you love that matchup, but not tonight.
Not tonight, yeah.
I don't think so. And so that's why I said, you very well
Good
could
point.
see Izzy in there for a minute or two here and there to give B and Mo both a break. And in case of a little bit of foul trouble, you just really have to set the tone early that you're going to get really great positioning and contest without fouling. And if you can do that and set yourself up for, okay, as the game goes on, if I get fatigued and maybe I make a mistake and get a foul here and there, you don't want that to be your 4th foul.
Got it.
So let me explain why I think Iowa State hits 15 threes tonight. Okay.
I'm for it.
Because when Iowa State has played Baylor and Texas, for the most part, I wouldn't really call it in the Big 12 tournament game. But you've noticed that Iowa State hasn't shot the 3-ball well against those teams. And it's like, well, why not? Because it's their bigs. Well, everything just pushes outward, and there's just more pressure in those games. And I haven't seen Georgia play, but I've seen Baylor and Texas play a lot. And I think I know why it bothers Iowa State. It's because they're so long, guys, that it really has impacted the guards, and it's really has impacted the perimeters. If they're the light version of these teams, I don't think it impacts the guards as much. And I think that they're way looser than they were on Friday. It was a bad opening 20 minutes. They got that out of their system. You see this all the time in NCAA tournaments with favorites. But 2, I just think that because of playing in the Big 12 and because of playing better versions of this team, they're just going to be really prepared for it. I really do. 15 threes tonight. I'm calling it right now. 15 threes.
That's actually an interesting point, because what I found in looking at their matchup against Dayton was everyone was talking about, well, Dayton shot lights out in the first 4 game, and then Georgia held them to only 6 threes, 6 of 18. The outlier was actually the first 4 game. Dayton doesn't shoot that many threes, and they don't make that many threes. Dayton averages about 6 threes a game, shooting, let's see, about 34%. Dayton made 6 threes. They shot 33%. So if they can hold Iowa State to around their average of like 10, that's not bad. They're just not used to playing teams that shoot as many threes. That's why the statistics are so different, because the SEC just plays a really, really different type of basketball.
All right, last point, and this is notable. I'm not rubbing it into anybody. Iowa lost to Creighton. So the whole
facts are facts.
The whole dream matchup in the Sweet 16 Cyhawk cannot happen now. So that is off the board. And if Iowa State wins tonight, all you have to do, it's a pretty big task. That Creighton team was a game team that we just watched.
I want to talk about a potential shootout. My gosh.
Yeah, that'd be a fun one.
That 15 who transferred from Iowa was balling out in the second half of that game. Shout out to her. But you're looking at a path to an Elite 8 by beating the double-digit seed if you could knock this one out tonight. So I'm not going to go any further. Jamie, you grew up with coaches. So right now what I'm doing, you're like, no! I've been around enough coaches. But I'm just saying, you look at the bracket right now, and it's setting up favorably for Iowa State if they can take care of business tonight.
Yeah, I mean, tonight's a really, really huge opportunity. And what I've been so impressed with every time I'm around this team is just how focused they are on the task at hand. And so we can have these conversations. They know it in the back of their heads. They're following what's happening, but their concern 1, 2, and 3 is what's happening tonight in Ames. And so thankfully, I really don't think that those results impact how they perform tonight for better or worse. If we get through tonight and we're still playing, then we can have that conversation all day long. But these young women have been just beyond anything I've seen. And like you said, I've been around this team for a really long time, and I just am blown away by the way they've handled themselves. And so I really look forward to seeing them on a massive, massive stage. Huge opportunity tonight.
It's going to be fun. Hilton will be nuts. And I'm sorry that you have to call that game while the men's game is going on as well. It just stinks the way it all worked out, but it is what it is. I'm glad they're all
I watch right up until tip-off.
end.
And then at the first time out, Noah says, "Hey, here's what happened." And I say, "That's terrific."
Well, have a good call, Jamie. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it. Yep. So, Bloom, that game tips off what at 7. So 5-10. Yeah, you're not going to miss that much, I guess.
The problem is, the getting to Hilton. I mean, I'm trying to figure that out myself. If I can.
Are you going to go?
I'm thinking of we'll see how the men's game goes. See if I could make it, time it out, maybe get there at halftime and watch. I don't know. It's just these quandaries we live in. It's a good problem to have. It's a good problem.
It is a good problem to have, and I actually understand why it's set up the way that it is. So, All right, let's get back to the men's game now and kind of sign off here and pick the brain of one Jared Stansbury. I believe he's in the room. There he is. He's literally across the hall from me here at the Doubletree.
You guys, are you feeling refreshed? Did you enjoy the evening last night? Everybody doing okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We really didn't do very much last night.
All right.
Yeah.
It's been kind of a tame trip for us, to be honest with you.
We're all growing up. That's good.
We're, there's been a lot of work to do. Honestly, a lot of stories. And then with the women playing at the same time, and then we had NCAA wrestling. Like, we have been going nonstop since we've been on the road. All right, Stansbury, are you still confident? Is confident a good word? I don't want to put words in your mouth. You like the matchup, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think the conversation you had with Scott earlier was good. I just think that if Iowa State was going to have to play one of these teams that's one of these top 3 seeds, then Wisconsin's a good matchup for them, and I don't think that Wisconsin is a team that's going to overpower you in any way. I think Iowa State's probably going to be the more physical team in this game. And when Iowa State's been able to be the more physical team is when you've seen Iowa State come out and play pretty well. So you got to be able to knock down some shots. I don't think you can ever be confident that Iowa State's going to knock down shots, which is obviously a key piece of being able to win. But I'm confident that they're at least going to be able to come out and give themselves a really good chance to win.
I think what's notable here, and hopefully it's talked about, is Wisconsin leads the nation in fewest turnovers per game at just over 8, which is a silly number. Like, that is incredible. Now, this is what Wisconsin has done for 20 years is they are the, what Matt Campbell wants to be in football is don't hurt yourself. It's like you maximize every opportunity on offense that you can. Where Iowa State is top 15 in the nation and turning teams over, and turned LSU over 19 times, which was a big benefit on Friday. Iowa State's not going to be able to do that. I mean, Wisconsin just doesn't turn the ball over against anybody. So what does Iowa State do defensively? It'll be fascinating. Sure, you still want to get up in them and you want to harass those guys, but Wisconsin so values the ball so much, it's really going to be hard to get them sped up at all. So how does that impact things? So I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, like Jared said and what Scott said, and you guys are dead on, it's going to come down to, who's going to make a shot. I think Iowa State will be able to drive a little bit. Who gets the free throw line more as well is right there. But this is a shot maker's game, and I don't think Iowa State is going to be able to live and transition off the turnover today.
And I think this is one of those games that it's going to come down to both teams having to take and make difficult shots, because you're going to have to run your stuff and you're going to have to try and, there's going to be times you're going to have to defend the full 30 seconds, and it's going to come down to, can someone make a really tough contested jumper? Can somebody come down, and be able to finish one in the lane when you just got to dump it down late in the clock? I think those are the kinds of things that this game is going to come down to. And, we know what Johnny Davis can do, but we know what Isaiah Brockington can do too, and we've seen him take and make a lot of really tough shots. We've seen Tyrese Hunter do that now as well. So I think at the end of the day, this game is going to come down to which team's role players can come out and play better. We've talked a lot about Chucky Hepburn and Johnny Davis and Brad Davison, but what do you get from Tyler Wall? If you're Wisconsin, what do you get from Stephen Crowell? On Iowa State side, what do you get from Caleb Grill? What do you get from Jazz Kuntz? What do you if you can get a couple buckets from Bob Jones and George Condit, that's just a bonus for you. And, I think that if whichever team's supporting cast comes out and really plays well, is going to give their team a really great chance to win, just because I think that the stars are on some level going to cancel each other out to a point.
If Iowa State, real quick, Brent, if Iowa State wins tonight, I'll bounce this off of you next and then go to your point. If Iowa State wins tonight, it takes one of those efforts, though, like you saw in Fog Allen. They won that game. I mean, they played well enough to win, whatever. What you saw for the last 30 minutes in Waco, the Oklahoma game this year, I think what stands out to me is like an elite type of game for this team. I think it takes one of those efforts, though, right, Bloom? I mean, with what you're going up against, and more importantly, I love what Scott said about the second round of the NCAA tournament, where you're more familiar with the arena, this ball thing, whatever. I don't know how big of a deal it is, but this is your second time using it. I do, in that sense, compared to the defenses that Iowa State has seen this year in the Big 12 stylistically, that does, Brent, give me some optimism here that maybe you get 3 or 4 threes out of Caleb Grill tonight. Maybe Kalsher just can't go 1 for 7. Go 2 for 4, get to the lane. Don't go 1 for 7. That's what they've got to avoid with him. He seems to be the guy who gets a lot of these open looks, and I don't think it's by mistake. But if we're looking how does Iowa State pull this one off, man, guys like that have got to just take their game up to a new level.
Yeah, you wonder if familiarity with Gabe, he's played Wisconsin probably half dozen times as any help here, plus the familiarity with the arena. And to be honest, Iowa State has beat better teams than Wisconsin this year. I mean, they really have. They've beat probably 6 better teams than Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin is very good, co-Big Ten champions. But you can't go into this if you're Iowa State and go, man, it's going to take an A-plus effort. It's not. It's going to take a B-plus to win the game, and it's going to be a low-possession game. So maximizing opportunities that are there, make free throws, don't get in foul trouble. I mean, it's all the typical things, but Iowa State should be able to do this. What I was going to say earlier is I'm curious, what's even the starting lineup? Does Anaruna get a start again? Does Bob Jones, do they do that same thing? I thought it was a really interesting move. I thought Jazz came off the bench and gave him a little something, kind of, I think almost better coming off the bench. What does that initial look like for Iowa State? But no, it's not going to take a perfect game. And that's the great thing with the way Iowa State can defend. If they get a B effort on offense, I think Iowa State wins the game. Now Iowa State's average this year is probably a C+. So they're going to have to be play above the mean, but they're not going to have to be extraordinarily good like they were in Allen Fieldhouse, in my opinion. I think they just have to be good enough on this particular night to, can you get to 63? I'll put the magic number at 63 tonight.
Stands, and to piggyback off of Bloom, it really interesting that Vegas opened this spread at a lesser margin than the LSU game, and Ken Pom had LSU favored by 4 or 3, something like that, and only Wisconsin by 1. So that does put into perspective what Bloom's saying. They have beaten better teams than Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I think you look at the numbers and you just see the teams that both of these teams have played. I mean, it's hardly comparable when you look at the defensive statistics that Iowa State has had to go against. I think they played 18 games against the top 30 in Ken Pom's adjusted defensive efficiency. I think Wisconsin's played 5. Iowa State played 12 games against the top 15, and Wisconsin had played 2, and both of them were in November. So this is going to be a different kind of animal defensively than what I think Wisconsin has just seen recently, and I mean, I know that Johnny Davis got hurt in that game against Nebraska, but we saw Nebraska really defend this team, so that's just what their offense does not really make me nervous. I mean, I think the way that this game is officiated is going to be really important. And I think that is where the crowd probably gives me the most pause are these officials affected by the crowd? And does that impact the way that they call the game? Because if it's a more physical game, I think Iowa State will win. I mean, the more physical the game is, the more that plays into Iowa State's hands. But if it is a touch foul type of game, then it's going to be a long night, I think.
That's the interesting thing here, Jared. I totally agree with you, but we've been on this freedom of movement rant for Iowa State fans for a month. It's actually going to benefit Iowa State if it's called like a Big 12 game.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, and and that was the thing. I wrote that thing last week, and I don't hate the way Iowa State plays as much as there's a lot of other teams play, because I think Iowa State does a really good job of just playing good defense.
Sure.
There's a lot of teams out there that don't. Yeah, I mean, they have good numbers because it's a lot harder to score on them because they just bully you. But I wouldn't necessarily sit there and say that they're guys who could defend and just play really good defense, like individual defense without grabbing and things like that. So I don't know. I mean, the officiating in this tournament has been absolutely horrendous by and large. Your boys are on the hot seat, Bloom, with some of the things that I've seen over the last several days, including today with the hanging on the rim technical in the Illinois game. So who knows at this point what's going to happen?
It's in the rule book.
Guys, Jared, let's get over to the arena. I'm done messing around.
All right, sounds good.
I actually, for what it's worth, the women's game, if you watched Iowa and Creighton, it reminded me a lot of the Texas-Iowa State game from last weekend. I mean, they're just mauling each other the whole time. And to those, it is what it is. I do think, though, Bloom, like your profession is they're doing what they're instructed is the problem. And I just think there's a lot of conversation because otherwise the game of college basketball it's already up against enough with the G League now. And like, we got to do something.
It's a tough spot for everybody.
Yeah, we need the officials to go rogue. They need to go rogue against their supervisors.
They're doing what they're told. That's the thing. So it's like, it's a very complicated, it's not just like, oh, all the refs suck. Like that's not. Now there have been some moments like that Baylor game yesterday where you're like, man, there's a lot of questionable decision making going on. But like, I actually have more sympathy for these officials than probably most.
Where's Hollywood at? Have you seen him, Bloom, during the tournament?
I haven't yet. I haven't seen him. Now that you mention it, I'm sure he's.
I've been watching for him.
Which is weird because most of them are working both rounds if they're somewhere. But I guess I think I've watched pretty much every game, but I don't know.
Oh, he did TCU Seton Hall the other night.
I did not. So that's the one game I didn't watch. So there you go.
Yeah.
So he'll be around. He'll be. I'm curious who the guys are tonight, and but it'll be a factor. I just hope for my sanity and everybody else's that it's not a last 30 seconds factor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Enjoy the game, boys.
Thanks. Yeah, that's what you're going to leave us on. Bloom, we podcasting tonight remotely, I assume.
Whatever let's see how the night goes. I mean, if you need to tie one on because Iowa State's going to the Sweet 16, I'm fine pushing it to.
Yeah, that's a decent point. If Iowa State wins, I have a feeling I might.
I think people will understand that. I don't know if they necessarily
After Dark Live.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So for those of us not in Milwaukee, well, you guys will have to work tomorrow too. So we'll figure it out.
Jared and I actually have to get up at like 6 and leave tomorrow because I got to pick my daughters up from school. So, man, I don't know.
We'll see. Well, I think the people would understand if we do tomorrow night instead.
All right, deal. All right, love you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks to all of our great sponsors: Fareway, Wild Rose Casino, Ames Des Moines Eye Care, Country Landscapes, and Iowa Event Center. And J Corp, as always, for sponsoring all of our women's basketball postseason coverage. Hopefully, we will be on the road to North Carolina and Chicago next weekend, and we'll be all over the globe. All right. Appreciate you guys. Signing off here from Milwaukee. We're heading over to the arena right now.